With the criteria out of the way, though, Grant, and I'll throw it up on the screen for the YouTube watchers, we begin with the Golden State Warriors, and their notable moves include drafting Patrick Baldwin Jr. at number 28. They signed Lester Quinones to a two-way contract. They acquired Ryan Rollins, number 44, from the Hawks for Tyrese Martin, number 51, and $2 million in cash. They signed Hollins then to a 3-year, $4.8 million deal. His first 2 years are guaranteed. They re-signed Kevon Looney to a 3-year, $22.5 million deal. $17.5 million is guaranteed. The final season, when he'll be 28, is his age 21 campaign anyway. There's only $3 million guaranteed. It fully guarantees if the team wins the title in 2023 or 2024. They signed JaMychal Green to a 1-year vet minimum deal after the Thunder bought him out. They signed Dante DiVincenzo to a 2-year, $9.2 million deal. Most of the mini MLE there. There's a player option on year 2. They signed Mac McClung to an Exhibit 9 contract. They signed Trevion Williams to an Exhibit 10 deal. Notable exits. Gary Payton II signed with the Blazers. Otto Porter Jr. signed with the Raptors. Damian Lee signed with the Suns. Juan Toscano Anderson is projected to be part of the Los Angeles Lakers' best closing lineup this season. And Andre Iguodala and Quindary Weatherspoon remain unsigned. What grade did you give your Warriors, Grant? And did we miss any of the transactions? This is the team that you can't afford to have anything missing.
Yeah, well, they didn't do a whole lot. So yeah, no, you got it.
Is a big deal.
Mac McClung dribbling the air out of the ball and searching for highlight passes in summer league was not one of my favorite things. This is a B for me. And the Warriors are kind of weirdly a hard team to evaluate because on one side you have how do they, why didn't they just pay whatever it costs to keep Porter and Payton? And there's some validity to that because why do we care what the billionaire spends? At the same time, like my personal opinion is like, you got to miss me with that stuff, or at least start somewhere else because there are much richer owners that are way tighter with their spending. So just start somewhere else when you're going to complain about like why. Now, not all of them are title or defending a title or trying to get another one, but like there's a little lower hanging fruit if you're going to complain about ownership frugality. Like this is not the place to start with that, in my opinion. So it sucks to lose Peyton. Super important, played a key role, was better than he's ever been in his career, is not that young. Sucks to lose Porter, also played a key role, was better than he's been in a couple years. Perfect situation factored in for both of them. I would love to have had both back from a fan perspective, but I think to kind of backfill with Dante DiVincenzo, I mean, on a to me a bargain deal, and to get JaMychal Green kind of into the Porter spot, I think based on how hard it typically is to keep a championship team together and not suffer a bunch of attrition, which the Warriors did. I mean, you listed all the guys they lost. Most of them were not significant minute players, but like they did lose Peyton and Porter. It's hard to keep a team this good together, especially on the margins where guys are going to go somewhere else and get more money or get bigger roles. So I think all that factored in, the B feels right to me. And that's not even like really like looking at the Looney retention, which I think is super important. And I do like the Baldwin pick because this is sort of like when they got him, it felt like I'm not making this comparison, but it's a sort of like a different version, a lesser version of a Michael Porter Jr. draft pick because Baldwin was like a top 5, depending on where you look, top 10 in his high school class. So like it was a weird situation where he went to a school that wasn't a big deal. His father was a coach. But similar in that, like, well, it's really just injuries for him. He had a terrible collegiate season. It was short and it was injury ridden, but like, he's a big guy that can shoot. And there was at a point, like this guy is one of the 5 or 10 best players of his age in the country. So getting someone like that at 28 when you're the Warriors and you can just afford to take home run swings with, major downside, I really think that was the right pick for them. And the other thing that you have to sort of, for me, consider here is they're just banking on a ton of organic growth, which isn't an off-season thing. I mean, like, unless we're going to start factoring in, like, what's the player development staff doing? But I think in light of the expectation that guys like Moody and guys like Kuminga specifically, and even Poole are going to improve, I think it makes sense to go for someone like DiVincenzo, who like injuries are the issue for him. So there's a chance that he only gives you 40 good games or something like that. But that's okay because you're going to backfill that with guys that are young and already on the roster and getting better. So even the downside risk of DiVincenzo, which is for sure there, because he didn't look like an NBA player or a good NBA player for a lot of the last year, 2 years. I think that makes sense. So it's still just a B because they did lose key guys, but I think they did about as well as they could without just deciding to have like a $600 million roster cost.
Yeah, I gave them a B too, and I tend to lean towards they should have just kept. And I would have picked GP2 over Otto Porter Jr. because of the Kuminga stuff. And I think they did with picking up Jermichael Green. I think what they've basically done this offseason, they've showed less faith in James Wiseman than they did in Jonathan Kuminga and Moses Moody based off how their offseason went. And that makes sense. But they also didn't go the full route of we're going to sign Hassan Whiteside because that would have showed like no faith in James Wiseman probably. So I like the Jermichael Green pickup. And the thing with Otto Porter Jr., he wanted to be in Toronto, and I firmly believe he took less than market value, and that his actual salary, like the Warriors wouldn't have been able. Like he probably had richer offers from than the Raptors, and the Warriors wouldn't have been able to pay him that much. So, and then the DiVincenzo pickup like sort of mitigates losing GP2. But again, on a team that really doesn't have like it's Moses Moody and Andrew Wiggins and Klay Thompson as your wings. And so now you're depending a lot on, I think Moses Moody might be ready based off what little we saw from him last season. Now you're kind of like, well, Klay Thompson and Andrew Wiggins are both just going to be really good. And that's that. Offensively, Klay Thompson, sure. Having now games under his belt, maybe he continues to improve defensively. I'm just not like Andrew Wiggins was just the second best player on their team during the finals. Like that makes me wildly uncomfortable and very appreciative of Steph for that matter. And that's like where I'm sort of like, they couldn't have won something else where like, if you have GP2, yeah, he's smaller, but at least that kind of beefs up your wing defense in the event of disaster. If Moody's not ready, if Wiggins regresses, if Klay Thompson gets injured, I know he's smaller, but he can defend bigger. The Kevon Looney signing though was a steal.
Yeah.
A steal. You have JaVale McGee getting about as much guaranteed money as Kevon Looney. Explain that to me. Yeah. Explain it. You can't do it. It's inexplicable. And so yeah, I do think they should have paid one of them, but I can't quibble over it. And the way you frame the Patrick Baldwin Jr. pick almost made me want to bump them up higher, but I still think they should have kept somebody and like between GP2 but like they should have kept GP2 because they could have given him that money. Otto Porter Jr. was more of just sort of like that was just iffy territory there. And the other thing is just like, I guess he had the leverage because he was signing for less than the mini MLE, so it's a win, but now they can't even keep Dante DiVincenzo if he's good because he's not going to stay because he has the player option and he's not going to play stay for the mini MLE, which would be the most that they could offer him effectively. So it's not a loss, but it's just like, I guess he had the leverage for a player option, especially because they didn't give him the full mini MLE. I think it was a good offseason and you had to bank on organic growth if you want to keep Klay Thompson and Draymond Green long-term with the rest of this core. I do wonder if the absence of extensions for anyone, the offseason is not over yet. Does that matter to you at all at this point?
I mean, I don't know how it certainly has the potential to change the grade, right? Like, because if they if they managed to reach an agreement with Poole, just to take one of them, and you're talking like Anthony Simons money or less, then I probably bump it up. If it's significantly more than that, then maybe we're not changing it. And who knows what happens with Wiggins, what happens with Green, like. It just there is a little bit of an incomplete element here, but I really don't know. It really would just come down to how good these extensions are. Like, just if they extend or do not, if they don't do anything, I can't really knock it because they just retain all the leverage anyway, and nothing really changes. And I don't think this is a team where it's like, well, Jordan Poole's pissed off and he's not going to, you can't like, this is a championship contender. That's not going to fly in the locker room. So the downside risk of not giving guys as much as you can right away is not as severe here as it would be on another team. It
would be. And I don't have a feel for what they should extend to any of these four guys. I don't like Klay Thompson. I'm not worried about because it's just like Klay's not going to go anywhere if they want to keep him. And Draymond Green is like, I feel like they shouldn't extend him and they should make him opt out and play the market. But I could also like, if they do extend him, my guess would be that I'm going to be surprised at how cheap it was because I don't know why the Warriors would do it. I'm not saying he's not important, but just like, that's where I'm at with him. I have no feel for Jordan Poole. I think Anthony Simons' money feels about right. But to me, he's shown he can do more when you look at his finishing specifically than Anthony Simons on offense. But like Anthony Simons has done it in like a higher leverage role because of the amount of time he was playing without Dame or even CJ last year.
Yeah. But to go the other way, like Poole has performed really well against the best teams in the biggest games, and Simons did it down the stretch for a team that was tanking. I don't disagree with you. Like
No, you're right. You're right.
We've seen Simons do it, but I think we've seen Poole do it too. I don't know. I don't know, like, if I'm comfortable with Poole as like Curry's successor, right? Like, this is the guy who gets the keys in 5 years or whatever it is. God, I hope it's 5 years, 5 more years for Steph.
I hope it's like 12. Why?
Yeah, right. Yeah, as long as you're willing to give me. But I think in his role right now, Poole is like just an absolute luxury. He is overqualified for like by a ridiculous degree for what like his actual responsibilities are on the team right now.
Yeah, and so my overarching point was I don't think I could get mad. I guess the player's extension I'd most likely be turned off by, which is weird, might be Wiggins's if it depending on what it is. I do think it would be awkward though. Like, wasn't there that video of Jordan Poole and Andrew Wiggins congratulating each other on getting the bag this offseason, and they just extend neither of them? That'd be like
I forgive everything said within an hour of winning a championship. you're not in your right mind. That'll never hold up in court. Like, they cannot be held to those statements.
Yeah, B's across the board. And I think they only really have I can't imagine them going down. Like, it would have to be, they'd have to max out Poole and declare him Curry's successor for me to be like, whoa, we need to
or just give Draymond like the full max or something totally insane, crazy like that.
Yeah. So B's across the board for them.